What if everything you were ever told about the world ending was a lie, designed to keep you exactly where you are? That's the question Dust finally answers. This is the third and final book in Hugh Howey's Silo trilogy, and it brings together every thread from Wool and Shift into one explosive conclusion. The architects, the caretakers, the rebels, the boy who grew up alone in the dark, they all collide here. And by the end, the entire foundation of this world gets torn down. Let's dig in. Dust picks up right where Wool left off. Juliette has just done the unthinkable. She's tunneled her way out of Silo 18 and into the ruins of Silo 17, the flooded, abandoned silo next door. She expected death. Instead, she found Solo, the grown man once known as Young Jimmy, who spent decades alone in the dark. And even more shocking, a small group of surviving children who've somehow grown up down there with him. For Juliette, this discovery changes everything. Silo 18 is unstable, damaged, and increasingly dangerous to live in after the uprising. Silo 17 is flooded and falling apart in its own way. But together, these two broken silos might just add up to one survivable home, if she can find a way to connect them. And that's exactly what she sets out to do. Juliette organizes an audacious engineering project, using a massive earth-boring machine buried in Silo 17, originally meant for something else entirely, to dig a tunnel connecting the two silos and relocate survivors before Silo 18 collapses in on itself. Back in Silo 18, though, not everyone is thrilled Juliette is even alive. The new leadership, still shaken from the uprising, is paranoid, defensive, and desperate to maintain control. Trust is in short supply. Juliette's return isn't a triumphant homecoming. It's a fragile, contested truce, and every step of her tunneling project is a gamble that could tip the silo into chaos all over again. Meanwhile, far above, in Silo 1, the machinery of control keeps grinding forward. Donald, still trapped in his role as Troy, is watching all of this unfold from the command center that started it all. And he's done pretending he doesn't understand what he's looking at. Silo 18's unrest has triggered every alarm the original architects built into the system. By their own rules, a rebellious silo like this should be quietly, permanently shut down, the exact fate that's already befallen other silos in the past. Donald knows the protocol. He also knows, more clearly than ever, that the protocol is monstrous. With his sister Charlotte at his side, skilled, sharp, and just as disillusioned with the system as he is, Donald starts working the levers of Silo 1 against its own design. Charlotte's background as a drone operator becomes crucial here. Using salvaged equipment and old military drones, she begins scouting the world above ground for Donald, gathering real information instead of relying on the sanitized reports Silo 1 has fed its people for generations. What they find above ground raises a question that's been quietly haunting the entire trilogy. Is the world outside really as lethal as everyone's been told? Or has that toxic wasteland always been part of the lie? A story engineered to keep an entire population too afraid to ever leave. As Donald digs deeper into this question, his relationship with Anna Thurman, his old flame and the scientist who helped wake him from cryo again and again, grows more fractured. Anna still believes, at least partially, in the necessity of what her father built. Donald no longer does. That gap between them becomes one of the most quietly devastating threads in the book. Two people who once loved each other now standing on opposite sides of a moral line neither of them chose to draw. And looming over all of it is Senator Thurman himself, the true believer, the architect of this entire tragic experiment. As Donald and Charlotte's rebellion becomes harder to hide, Thurman's grip tightens. He's spent his whole life convinced that this brutal system is the only thing standing between humanity and its own self-destruction. Watching his life's work unravel, watching his own daughter and the man he once mentored turn against everything he built, pushes Thurman toward increasingly desperate and increasingly ruthless decisions. The tension in Dust isn't just about tunnels and drones and blueprints. It's about the terrible cost of finally telling the truth to people who've spent their whole lives being lied to. Back in Silo 18, Juliette's tunneling project draws the attention of Silo 1 in the worst possible way. Instead of seeing rescue and adaptation, the architects up top see exactly the kind of anomaly their protocols were built to eliminate: a population learning too much, moving too independently, threatening the illusion that's held their entire system together for generations. This is where Donald's quiet sabotage becomes an active, dangerous fight. He starts feeding Juliette information through old radio channels, warning her, buying her time, doing everything in his limited power to keep Silo 1 from simply erasing the very people he spent the whole story learning to see as fully human rather than test subjects in someone else's grand design. Juliette, for her part, isn't just fighting to survive anymore. She's fighting to prove that people don't need to be controlled from the shadows to make good decisions about their own lives. Her tunnel isn't just an engineering project. It becomes a symbol of self-determination in a world explicitly built to deny people exactly that. As the story accelerates toward its climax, old wounds reopen. Victor's ghost, the previous Troy, the man who couldn't live with what this system demanded of him, hangs over every decision Donald makes. Erskine, the guilt-ridden scientist who built the original nanotechnology weapon, resurfaces with information that could change everything. The truth about what's actually breathable, survivable, and possible on the surface. And Thurman, cornered by the unraveling of his life's work, makes a choice so brutal it recontextualizes everything we thought we understood about him. Rather than accept that his vision has failed, he moves to silence the threats to it directly, even the ones closest to him. The fallout from this decision tears through the people around him, and it's one of the most gutting moments in the entire trilogy. Donald, pushed past every limit he has left, finally decides he's done managing the system from the inside. He commits to actively destroying it instead. What follows is a race against time on two fronts. In Silo 18, Juliette pushes her tunnel toward completion, knowing that if Silo 1 moves first, none of it will matter. In Silo 1, Donald and Charlotte work to dismantle the very control systems Donald once helped design, sabotaging air systems, corrupting protocols, doing everything they can to buy the people below a fighting chance. The climax of Dust brings every one of these threads crashing together. Donald, fully aware of the danger, exposes himself to compromised systems in Silo 1 in order to disable the mechanisms that would otherwise doom Silo 18 to the same fate as every rebellious silo before it. It's a sacrifice made with open eyes, the final complete reversal of the man who once believed he was building something noble, now willing to die tearing that same something down. Meanwhile, Juliette's tunnel breaks through. Survivors from both broken silos begin the terrifying, hopeful process of relocating into a single, viable home, Solo and the children included, finally reunited with a wider community after years of isolation in the dark. And then comes the discovery that reframes the entire series. The toxic, poisoned wasteland everyone has been told exists above ground isn't quite what it seems. The suits, the sensors, the terrifying static-filled camera feeds that convinced generations of silo dwellers the surface would kill them in minutes. Some of that has been manipulated, exaggerated, or outright falsified to keep people exactly where the original architects wanted them: underground, controlled, and afraid. It doesn't mean the world above is a paradise. It's harsh, uncertain, and dangerous in its own right. But it's not the guaranteed death sentence generations were taught to fear. And that distinction changes absolutely everything for the people who've spent their entire lives believing escape was impossible. By the end of Dust, a small group of survivors, battered, grieving, but free of the lies that built their world, take their first steps toward the surface. It's not a clean, triumphant ending. People are lost along the way. Donald pays the ultimate price for his rebellion. Thurman's legacy collapses under the weight of his own choices. But what's left standing is something the original architects never accounted for. Ordinary people choosing, for the first time in generations, to determine their own fate. That's Dust. The story of how a system built entirely on control finally gets undone. Not by some grand external force, but by the very people it was designed to manage, refusing finally to accept the lie they were given. It completes the story Wool and Shift spent 2 books building toward. A world where survival wasn't the point of the silos at all, control was. And it takes everything Juliette, Donald, Charlotte, and even Solo have left to finally break that cycle. If you followed this series from the beginning, Dust is the payoff that makes every earlier sacrifice, every earlier mystery, and every earlier betrayal make sense. The silo was never just a shelter. It was a cage built by men convinced they knew better than the people they trapped inside it. And Dust is the story of that cage finally, painfully, coming apart. Thanks for watching. If you want to go back and revisit how this all began, check out our breakdowns of Wool and Shift. And let me know in the comments which character's arc hit you hardest by the end of this trilogy.